Hello friends, welcome back to the RaoMoon Oracle. I'm Rao, and today we're continuing with our Animal Spirit Advice Animal Kingdom Edition series. It's going to be chapter 4 this time. So we've got 3 other videos in this series, and we're coming in with chapter 4 today. So we've got 12 new animals for you to connect with. This is a timeless reading that you can come back to time and time again if you feel like you want to, if you need to. You can also go back to any of the other videos in this series and connect with any animals at that point. So it's just good for when you need some quick advice. You can kind of pick an animal that you're drawn to or that you're feeling called to based on the card number. So we got a new set today of animals. We've got a pretty even distribution for in terms of the elements. So we got enough. We have 3 of each for fire, air, earth, and water, which I thought was very interesting and leaves an interesting spread for the last video based on numerology. So 4 is very, very balanced. It is our square. That is the 4 pillars, right? So it's interesting that we have an even amount of our different elements in this reading. And then 5 being change, we have a interesting combination for next time, so tune in for that one. But we'll hop into the pick a group portion of this video now, where you'll see the cards face down first. So you can just go purely off based intuition, or you can wait a little bit longer and then connect with an animal when they're face up and revealed. So I'll see you in your group when you're ready. Bye. Okie doke, so here is the pick a group portion of this video. So we've got our 12 animals laid out here face down. So that way you can use it just based on intuition completely if you want, or muscle testing, see what group is yours. And then you can jump into the section of the video and be surprised at what animal you have, what animal you're connecting to today. But otherwise, we'll number these out here. So row number 1 is on top. So this is going to be group 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then down a row, row 2, this is 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then finally, we got the 3rd row here. This is group 9, 10, 11, and 12. So our numbers will be popping up here in just a second, and you can see which group you want to connect to, which animal is giving you advice today. If you're coming back to this video later at a later date too, again, because this is a timeless reading. But if you do want to see what animals there are under these cards here, hop into the next part of the video. I'll join you over there. Bye. Okie doke, here are our revealed animals. So we've got a pretty even distribution this time for all of our different elements here for air, earth, water, fire. Air, earth, water, fire. Yep, just the 4. So we got 3 of each, which is pretty interesting. This is a very balanced one, which makes sense for chapter 4 here. But we'll start at the top again. So we have, for group number 1 is the whale. Group number 2 is the frog. Group number 3 is the vulture. Group number 4 is the hummingbird. Down a row here, 2nd row, group number 5 is the spider. Group number 6 is the raccoon. Group number 7 is the moth. And group number 8 is the cobra. And then finally, row 3 down here, group number 9 is the shark. Group number 10 is the fire ant. Group number 11 is the lion. And group number 12 is the deer. So take a second again, if you're choosing based on the animal here, or if there's an animal that's catching your eye, go based off your intuition, pendulum, whatever you feel like you need to do, and connect with an animal so that way you can get your advice for the day and advice for when you're coming back again to this video, okay? So lots of pretty colors here, so just take a sec, whatever you need, pause the video if you feel like it, and then join me in your group when you're ready. I'll see you there. Bye. Hello, group number 1, the whale group. So, whale, whale, whale. When I think of whale, there is definitely a presence there, right? The whales, any whale that you kind of encounter or you see at like SeaWorld when they used to have them a lot. Thank God they don't anymore because whales are too smart for that. But whales are massive, massive, massive creatures. The ones we're seeing in here, like the humpback or the blue whale, the largest animals, mammals especially on the planet, so usually the largest animal as a whole. So a presence is there. There is energy there that is felt, that is heavy in a positive way, when in my opinion. And when I think of whales, it's like whales tie in with like dolphins, and you got orcas and everything. There is a brilliance there, a level of mental capacity that we didn't normally know about for a long time, but like whales and dolphins, they're probably as smart as humans. The brain is definitely big enough for it, and it is said in some spiritual contexts that whales and dolphins were kind of the first living creatures to kind of populate the earth. If you talk about Syrian mythology, kind of, I guess is the word I'm going to use for it. There is definitely a big tie to our planet and the impact that like whales have on it. If you think about the whale and like other mythologies, right, the whale with like the island on their back or swimming through the space is a visualization that kind of comes to mind with whale for me. But also with whale here, what whale talks about, there's deep emotions here, very, very deep emotions. Whales are going to some of the deepest parts of the ocean, moving through that. And as a mammal, it's very interesting because us as humans don't have the same access to the depths of the ocean that the whale does. But both of us are mammals in this case, and have a lot of similar functions for body type and everything, right? Whales do need to breathe air, so there's that blowhole and that association with the air. They can hold their breath for a really, really long time. But if you think about water in terms of emotions, right, and the ocean, that depth of emotions, whales are really moving through that and getting to the depths of those emotions. So in this case for whale, in terms of spirit advice, there might be you need to dive into your emotions more. You need to pull in some of this whale energy. Whales also have a lot of creativity associated with them if you think about the whale song. So that communication taking place in a very creative manner through music, singing in a way, right? And how that travels through water and that whole different medium. There's a lot of creative energy and very spiritual energy there. So whale here is calling for a depth into that, diving into that emotions, diving into that deeper creativity. However, if you feel heavy at this point, if there's a lot of heaviness, you might be too much in your emotions. It might be you're too far in the depths underneath, and you need to kind of like pull yourself back up, raise back up, get into shallower waters because you've been too in depth in your emotions for a long time, and it's keeping you from seeing other parts of reality in this case. So if you think about the whale and in those depths of oceans, right, there's not a ton of light down there. There's not a ton of sea life. There's very minimal things there. So you're just kind of surrounded by that darker water and darker feelings, darker emotions, maybe potentially those deep, more repressed ones, old emotions that you've kind of tucked away that are maybe from your childhood. So we are a little too in depth in that, and we need to kind of come back up into shallower waters, into a little bit nicer places that have more life and vibrancy, and back into like our creativity, because there is not really a use for creativity if it's not being put out, right? We can have it all in our minds, but it doesn't, like, creativity wants to be expressed and wants to move through. And if we are not up in the world and expressing that through art or music or speaking or whatever medium you're feeling drawn to, called to, then there's not much more for it to be done. It kind of stagnates at that point, right? So we're just, that energy sits heavy with us and it doesn't move forward through the water into open air and into this new realm, right? If you think about the whale breaching the water, coming up and out of the water, which they do sometimes, and they do it for fun. They do it for show, for humans sometimes. The dolphin, you think of the dolphins jumping out of the water, not at SeaWorld, no, ignore SeaWorld completely, but just whales and dolphins and others in this species just having fun, enjoying their existence, and then they sometimes want to entertain humans too. So that breach of the water, coming out of that water into the open air, into a whole nother world, into a whole nother space. So there could be a call there in terms of spirit advice for it's like, hey, come back up to the surface, breach the water, come back out here and give that creativity out to the world, express it more outwardly, so that way you can show what you have to offer, show this deep creative energy that the whale has, and put it out into the world in a different way, in a positive manner for yourself and everyone else. Okay, so my whale people, for group number 1 here, that is the energy. Feel free to pick another animal in this reading or in previous videos if you're feeling called to do so. This is a timeless reading that you can come back to again and again, connect with a different animal, or if you need reminded for this reading specifically. So whatever you feel like you need to do, but that is all I have for us today, friends. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 2, my frog group. So frog energy in terms of spirit advice, there is a lot of transformation for this group. If you think about the frog, right, it starts from an egg is laid, then it kind of transforms into that little tadpole stage and then becomes an actual frog. And so a lot of transformation through many different aspects of your life. There's probably more distinct stages in your life if you look back over it. So that might be something to kind of keep in mind for this group. Journaling is really good to kind of just keep track of everything that's happened to you, and you can see these big secular, that's a whatever word that is, cycles in your life, how it's kept moving through and changing, and these different stages that you've kept going through from being this egg to tadpole to frog kind of transition period here, where it's like kept moving through and learning new things and growing in that regard. Constant metamorphosis. So you could be going through a metamorphosis in your life right now. So similar to kind of like a butterfly energy, but with more distinct stages and different, the stage of like the mid stage of like a butterfly versus a frog are very, very different. The activity that's kind of taking place, the butterfly is more in that cocoon and a rest energy, versus a tadpole, very, very active, lots of movement through, and the element of water and land come in very, very heavily here with frog. So the frog versus like a toad, for example, right? The frog is tied into water a lot. Toad is just purely a land-based animal in this case. But with frog, there's a constant connection to the water. And the waters are therefore like our emotions. So there's a constant for a frog person, the constant connection to your emotions, or maybe you're feeling the emotions of others. A lot of the time, if you think about a frog and that moisture on their skin, in order for them to be healthy, there is if you're feelings are on your skin, it's like at the tip, like on the top right here, you can constantly feel other people's emotions, wearing your heart on your sleeve pretty much in this case. So there's a call for a lot of self-care in that regard, because you have to take care of yourself and make sure you're balanced if you're feeling the energy of others so heavily. There's practice in that for making sure that you are keeping track of your emotions and not getting caught up in others, and self-care in that regard, and then some protection as well, because maybe you don't want to feel the energy of others so heavily. It's an ability you have in this case through this frog energy, but it's one that you have to make sure that you're kind of guarded and protected with, because you don't want it to overwhelm you, right? Too much of anything is going to be overwhelming. With the water though too, there is, and frogs specifically, there's going to be a call for you to just constantly kind of be keeping track of your emotions and being in touch with your emotions. Water is also that creation energy. It's our emotions, our feelings. So being in touch with them, because you're living in both at the same time. The frog lives on land and lives in the water. It spends its life very consistently with both and around both. You'll find frogs in kind of those wetland areas. So it's not like they come out of the water and completely disregard the water after that point and move away completely, or don't live next to a water source. They have to, in order for their survival, their food source, for their most optimum health. So that's the same in this regard for this group as your energy, where it's like keeping in contact constantly with your emotions, making sure you're checking in with yourself, making sure your emotions are there and present. And you're keeping good track of kind of what's going on with yourself, so that way you can live your life in a way that's healthy and beneficial for you at all levels, physical, mental, spiritual, all of that. With frog energy here too, there is that communication and sound. You think of the frogs croaking, so there's a little bit of fun there with some of the frog song and the energy of communication that comes in with the frog. But just mostly if you're getting this and the frog's just kind of showing up for you out of the blue, then there's lots of transformation happening potentially for you right now, and a call to tune in with your emotions. If it's just a totem animal for you, in this case, it's being aware of the emotions that you have constantly around you, being in your own emotions and how that is presented to others, your energy field as a whole, because it's like, hey, you're putting out all this energy all the time. Your emotions are on your skin, on your sleeve pretty much. So keeping track of how you affect others potentially as well. You definitely get affected by others with this frog energy, but you can be affecting others just the same if you have a strong energy that you just put out into the world all the time. So interesting energy with frog here. Take a look at kind of what's transforming in your life again, making sure you're connected to your emotions and keeping track of them, and take a bath, play in the rain, go jump in a lake, something like that, to kind of just connect with water again and be present with water in your life as a whole. Okay, group number 2. So that's what we got for frog energy here. Feel free to pick another animal in this reading and this group video as a whole, or in previous videos. This is a timeless reading, so you can come back again and again if you feel like you need to, and just connect with a different animal. So whatever you feel like you need to do, but that's all I have for us today, friends. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 3, the vulture group. So, vulture energy. Vulture is an interesting one for sure. The way vultures are usually perceived has kind of a little bit of a negative connotation sometimes, just based on how they feed, how they eat. But that connotation is misinterpreted in a lot of ways. They are a very, very important bird in the entirety of the ecosystem. In terms of ecosystem and the larger whole, they serve a very, very vital function that's very much needed in order for life to keep progressing and life to keep growing and moving forward. We have this energy that comes in with vulture where there is the cleansing of death and purification here, right? So we have the vulture feeds on like the leftover carcasses, the kind of the decaying and the more gross things in this case, but that is necessary in order for bacteria not to spread, for the disease not to spread, for these things to be left in a way that is going to be more beneficial for the environment. So with vulture coming in here, there is a purification of your life kind of happening potentially in terms of spirit advice. There is a time coming in where the universe is kind of cleansing things for you maybe. You've had that friendship finally die off that wasn't serving you anymore. Maybe a relationship ended. Unfortunate for sure, some of these things happening, but the overall process, the bigger picture, brings in a lot of energy for, hey, this is purified now, we can move forward in a positive way, there is room for new growth, right? So you have something that's died in your garden and you don't want to touch it, but these animals come in, something like the vulture comes in to feed and cleanse that space, and then it allows it for new energy to kind of come in and for new things to grow there. So you, in terms of, for group number 3 here, you in terms might have the vulture as kind of like a spirit animal. So what you do, whatever skill set you have, the energy you provide to others is very, very vital, even if it's not recognized as such potentially, or you're just not seen. You maybe work more quietly in the backgrounds, but provide very, very necessary things in order for just things to keep running in general, for things to keep moving forward. You're providing a very, very necessary skill set and energy that everybody needs, but nobody kind of realizes. So I'm recognizing you here and now, group number 3, for all this vital energy and function that you do for others and for yourself and for the environment that you are in. It's appreciated. I'm very grateful for you and others like you for what you do for us, because somebody does have to do it, and it's not everybody's place or not everybody's cut out to do it. And the fact that you are able to do it is a miracle. But in whatever capacity that is, I don't know. In terms of just regular spirit advice, though, for the vulture and energy, it calls for maybe for you to do some cleansing yourself. Maybe you need to take a look at the relationships and partnerships in your life, and maybe there's some pruning you need to do there. Maybe there is somebody that it's time to just kind of let that thing die off, let that friendship die off, and move forward with new and better people that maybe serve your purpose better. Maybe it's time to go through your things and cleanse your home, saging, with doing like some kind of smoke cleansing potentially, doing some really deep cleaning if you're in like a spring or fall potentially, right before you go into winter, as you're coming out of winter, cleansing your space so that way you have fresh energy ready and available to you to come into it. So that could be something that's coming in as well. There's many ways that we can cleanse and purify our space, ourselves, our energy as a whole. So purification is an interesting concept, right? Because there is something that is dirty, quote unquote, and we're purifying it. But there is all energy is energy at the end of the day, right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it's the way we transform that energy, this metamorphosis process. It's purification is its own kind of type of metamorphosis, its own kind of change here. And it's a very important one where it's like maybe this just popped in my head, where it's like you're clearing generational trauma, right? You're purifying the trauma that's in that bloodline, in your ancestors, in your parents, in your grandparents, and your great grandparents, so that way it doesn't pass on again and pass further down the line if you decide to have children yourself or in siblings or anything else, right? So purification here. There's a lot of different ways it can kind of come about, in the vulture energy that is present for you here, group number 3. So very, very special energy in this case, and one that I want to recognize and impart gratitude to for how it works in our life for those of you that have this vulture as a totem here. Very important energy that is very vital to this whole universe, the ecosystem as a whole, okay? So feel free, group number 3, to pick another animal in this reading if you feel called to do so, or in previous videos. These are timeless readings, so you can come back to them whenever you need to get more advice in whatever animal that is calling to you on this particular day. But that is all I have for you today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 4, the hummingbird, sorry, upside down hummingbird group. So hummingbird here. Hummingbird, I don't know if you've ever seen a hummingbird. They are fascinating little creatures, little birds. It's true that their wing is like, when they're flying, it sounds like humming a lot of the time, because their just wings are moving so fast. It's almost like what's interesting for hummingbird energy is how it doesn't quite turn into like anxious energy. I think in too much, maybe it can at some times, but there is just a lot of energy flowing through these birds. People that maybe have hummingbird as a totem, there's a lot of energy happening with these animals, and how they go about like taking care of themselves, right? They have to eat a lot during the day. Like it's like, I think like 50 to 60 like small little meals just to keep up their energy, because they're constantly flying, constantly. Like they don't walk at any capacity, like in anywhere. They're always flying, and they can fly forwards and backwards and loop to loops, and their wings move in like figure 8 patterns and stuff. They are like the best flyers almost out of any bird, as far as I know. I don't think any other bird can actually fly backwards like a hummingbird can, which just makes them super interesting and fascinating for how this relates in a spiritual context. With hummingbirds here, there is a big connection of flower energy as well. So if hummingbird's showing up for you in terms of spirit advice, Bach flower essence might be something you need to look into a little bit. The way the healing happens with flowers, and in what context any kind of flower essence is. Or there might be a particular flower you're drawn to that has its own healing message, since each flower has, flowers and herbs and everything have their own messages and archetypes and spiritual contexts as well. So that might be something for you to look into here, group number 4, with the hummingbird as your animal that you're getting spirit advice from today. Those with hummingbirds as a totem animal, definitely keep track of your energy. Definitely get your sleep. Make sure you're resting really well, because you're expending a lot of energy through the day when you're active, moving through life, and making sure you're eating properly, making sure you're getting a proper amount of sleep, making sure you're getting your sunlight and your nature and whatever else you kind of need in order to maintain yourself, because you put out a lot of energy. This is kind of the person, how I feel, that just generates energy. I think it's a human design. There's the generators or whatever, and there's other kind of contexts for people in my experience where they just constantly put off energy, and those with hummingbird totems, that's kind of that same feeling I'm getting here. So just make sure you're maintaining yourself so you can keep doing that. You just generate energy, so you got to make sure that energy comes from somewhere, and that's from eating well, sleeping well, and all those other things to take care of yourself, okay? So energy in regards of that. Lots of beauty and color with hummingbird coming in, so taking a minute to appreciate the beauty, right? Hummingbirds are able to float and pretty much float and like pause in the air. Their wings are still going, but they look like they're still in the air. They're levitating, floating almost, because of how fast their wings are going. But then that allows them to eat from the flowers and help pollinate the flowers as they're moving through. The like feeders that we have for hummingbirds, you can kind of see them and watch them as they're like sitting there, and very rarely do they actually like pause and sit on the feeder and eat. They're actually just flying most of the time, but it's really interesting to watch them. So there is a call here for, in terms of advice, to just appreciate the beauty in life. Hummingbirds themselves are very beautiful. They have that iridescent coloring a lot of the time. We see in the card here specifically, and that's up on the screen, that kind of rainbow coloring coming out, and then all the flowers and plants that they interact with that have their own beauty and vibrancy and color as well. So a lot of interesting energy there in terms of enjoying life, enjoying the small things. Flowers are small, hummingbirds are small, so those little moments of joy that we can find in our lives, having a cookie. I smell brownies baking right now. I think my mom is making some, so those pieces, going for a drive, those like little pleasures, those little small things, take a minute to just enjoy those for yourself today. That's that hummingbird energy coming through for you. And to also yourself watch, not just as a hummingbird totem, but just advice in general from the hummingbird is to watch how you're spending your energy, making sure that you're spending your energy in consistent ways and in ways that conserve your energy in other times, right? Hummingbirds, when they're pausing and resting, they like kind of completely like slow down, their body slows down, their blood flow and everything, so they kind of go into this like rest dormanty kind of state a little bit, because they don't want to expend the energy they have to use so much throughout the whole day through flying and everything else. And so the ones that migrate and travel have to like build up a lot of food supply and eat a lot in order to have the energy to go on their journeys that they're pursuing. So that's the advice coming out of hummingbird for those with the totem or just getting the advice of the animal. Feel free to pick another animal in this video if you feel called to do so, or in previous videos. We got a lot of animals you can choose and connect with and get advice from. So whenever you feel called to do so, use your intuition on that. But that is all I have for us today, friends. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 5, the spider group. Okay, so spider energy. In terms of spirit advice, there is the concept of the web here, right? So, I mean, we have communication here. I've talked about it, I think, in with the Halloween Oracle deck, and that has a spider in it. There's communication there because we have the World Wide Web, right? So, spider calling on us to look at our communication styles, depending on when you see this. There might be a Mercury retrograde because they happen 3 to 4 times a year. So, to just kind of take a second look at our communication, making sure all those webs are in place, that they're looking nice, that we're not all jumbled up, right? And making sure our communication is flowing up and down the web in a nice and consistent and balanced pattern and manner. So that's the first thing that kind of comes to mind with spider. Spider in this case is also an earth card, which is interesting. So there is that groundingness that comes with earth energy, our finances. There is a creation energy here for creating our own, creating our web, weaving a web. That spider coming in to weave this web through the different ways. And there is lots of mythologies that talk about the spider as the creation being, or one of the creator beings, depending on which one you're looking at specifically. So with spider, there is the creation energy for, it's like, okay, hey, we're creating this web, we're creating the means for our food source, our home, what gives us a protection as well. So this, you think about the spider moving up and down the web and those really thin strings here as well. There is a delicacy here, like a delicate power. There is power behind the spider with it being this earth energy, specifically with this card and this deck, but there is a delicacy and delicateness in the terms of nature, the nature of the spider itself and the web it weaves. A spider is actually a very delicate creature itself. When it's, I think it's the blood flow through the animal itself that actually keeps its legs in the position it is. Once it's like it's hurt, or if it when it dies, those legs curl up, right? Because there isn't any like pressure to keep the legs in the position it is. And a spider, if I remember correctly, if it falls, or if it like you drop a spider, like a tarantula specifically, it can like fall and like break because of the way the skeleton, the exoskeleton of the spider is. So very interesting in terms of that way. You wouldn't think a spider as delicate, or like a tarantula specifically, but there actually is a delicate nature to the spider and how easily a web is destroyed, right? It's this beautiful pattern and way it is built out, but it can be destroyed super easily by rain or by human or a different animal coming through, right? So interesting energy there. Lots of different advice coming in as spirit advice from the spider, where it's like, okay, let's look at our communication. Let's look at what we're building. Let's take a look at our finances, what we're weaving in this case. What do we need to have a more delicate touch with potentially? What needs that kind of more delicate nature of the spider as we're moving through our life here. Those with the spider as a totem, you are a creator in a lot of ways. You're creating your reality. Of course, everybody is a creator in that regard, but you really do create this web of people around you. You create this community, this environment around you that helps support others in terms of like food and supplies and different things, right? The spider builds its web to catch its food. So interesting thought process and energy there for the spider and that creation energy. So look at what you have been creating, if it does align with you and what you want. We look at this web specifically in this case and this card and that rainbow and all the realm of possibilities, right? Our rainbow covering all of our chakras and all the different kind of light and energy that we have here. We're creating energy. So take a look at what you have been creating and if it balances out and lines up with what you feel internally, what you want. If there are holes in your web that you maybe need to repair, if there are people in your life that just aren't a best fit anymore potentially and you need to kind of cut them out and let them go. So a couple different ways to interpret spider and spider energy in this regard. Let's see what else for spider here. What was I thinking? With that like creation energy comes kind of that unlimitless potential as well. So there is taking this potential here, right, and then weaving it and creating it into something structured and like a finished product. So somebody with the spider as a totem, you're to like have that whatever idea you have, take it and build it out. Okay, there is lots of potential here and good things that'll come out of it. Okay, so that's all I have for spider. If you feel called to do so, feel free to pick another animal in this reading or in the previous videos. We got lots of different animals to choose from and lots of different energies you can connect with. So just do whatever you feel called to do so. This is a timeless reading, and as are all the other videos, so you can always come back to them if you need to. But that's all I have for us today, friends. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 6, the raccoon group. So raccoon energy, a very interesting one. When I was reading and doing research for raccoon, it was kind of interesting because I hadn't really thought more about raccoon and the archetypical energy that's there for it, but it made a lot of sense when I kind of got into it. I was like, oh, duh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense for how I've seen the animal function and its environments and all those pieces. So with raccoon energy, there is a sorry about the vehicles, there is a kind of a little sneakiness, but like more resourcefulness here. You can find raccoons in pretty much any environment. It's really interesting how they can live in cities and suburbs, and they are very resourceful for how they get their food, and then kind of have a veracity to them because you don't want to like get into it with an angry raccoon, not by any means. They can be a little mean and they can be a little ferocious almost. So that's an interesting energy to kind of pay attention to there. Somebody who has this group that has raccoon as a spirit totem or spirit animal along with them, you have lots of resources and you know how to find your resources, I think is kind of the bigger key here. You are resourceful in general and maybe have access to resources, but you know where to find more. And that's almost even more important, where you can kind of take anything and make something out of it. You can take nothing and make gold out of it pretty much. And that's a very, very brilliant skill set to have, honestly, because that's going to do a lot of good things for you. That's going to help take you forward in a lot of aspects in a lot of ways. So interesting energy in that regard. What's also interesting with raccoon here, there's very social, but the interesting thing is like the mask that a raccoon has, right? So around the eyes we have that coloring, and you hear about the raccoon eyes a lot, but that mask being present there for kind of, it makes you think of like thieves and burglars, because that's the typical mask, right, in that kind of shape. But the concepts of masks for us as human beings, right, we put on different masks in different situations, and we have our work context, our family context, our friend context, our relationship. We put on different masks potentially depending on what's needed in the given situation and the kind of person we need to be, right? We're going to be maybe more focused and more determined in our work context. That's the mask we put on, versus with our friendships, right? We can be completely different people and put on different masks depending on the persona we need at any given time. And that's raccoon energy in this case. That raccoon energy really kind of teaches us the ways we put on these masks, how these masks serve us, how they do a disservice to us, and the way we can change ourselves and move through and transform depending on the mask we're wearing, right? If we're it's the fake it till you make it concept almost, where it's like, okay, hey, I'm going to put on this mask of confidence, right? And then you end up feeling confident. You get better at it and you keep practicing and keep putting on this mask of confidence. And eventually you just are confident, right? You have developed that skill set by putting on this mask repeatedly in order to further your own development, your own growth. And you've gotten there through practice and pretending. That's what a mask kind of does. That's that pretend aspect, that play aspect coming in. So raccoon's really interesting in that regard because we can change ourselves in a lot of ways by putting on this mask, and raccoon helps us with that energy in this regard. Let's see what else for raccoon. They're sneaky, kind of like you don't see raccoons very often. I think I've seen a raccoon maybe twice in my life, or at least in a very long period of time. I know they're around here because we live next to a lake, but they are not seen very often. At least I haven't seen them very often, in my opinion. And that kind of gives that sneaky aspect there, but they move through at night a lot of the times. They're very curious creatures. So they go through the trash. They get into your house. They can open doors and latches and different things. They're very smart in that way. So there's an adventurous kind of curiosity coming in for people with this as a totem, or maybe you need to have more curiosity in your life and kind of go on these little nighttime adventures, potentially go for a night drive, go camping and hang out under the stars, maybe something like that, to kind of engage this nighttime energy, and then this kind of quiet energy as well that the raccoon has in this little sneaky aspect here. And in terms of spirit advice as well, see what mask you need to try on maybe, or what mask you need to take off. Are you not being authentic to yourself? So you have on this mask that's fake for you, that doesn't fit you, or is there a mask or a version of yourself you're trying to become and get into? So you need to put on that mask, that version of future you, in order to help change your energy and get into that mode, into that energy. That's how we kind of manifest things, by being in that energy, right? So that's raccoon energy for us. So feel free to pick another animal in this video if you feel called to do so, or in the previous videos. These are timeless readings, so you can come back to them again and again and pick different animals depending on what you need on that given day. This might be the energy for the day, the month, or the year. Who knows? That's up to you and your intuition. But that's all I have for us today, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 7, the moth group. Okay. Moth energy, similar energy with the butterfly. They go through a similar transformation process in a lot of ways, with the cocooning and the caterpillar. I'm not sure if that's a proper term for it actually, but that transformation into that moth. So that process is very similar to a butterfly, so there is that energy present as well. When you think about moths though, they get in weird places sometimes. We get a lot of moths here where I live during certain points of the summer, and it feels like every few years or so, all of a sudden there's a ton. I have this vivid memory from when I was little, for a bunch of moths. We opened our classroom door, I think it was in elementary school, and all these moths just fell down, and it was crazy. So with moth energy, you got to be a little bit careful if it's showing up for you as a totem or for spirit advice. You might be getting into things that you shouldn't be. You might be following that light, and it's gonna burn you up because it's one of those lights that kills the bugs that are flying around it. So you might want to be careful with that kind of energy here. We don't want to be too flighty. We don't want to be too distracted. We want to kind of have our energy grounded. This is an air energy for this card, so makes sense. It's a flying creature, but so we want to make sure our energy stays grounded. We don't want to get too flighty, but if it's energy that's coming out that we might need some moth energy, we need a little bit more enthusiasm in our life. We need a little bit more spontaneity, a little bit more freedom, a little bit more whimsy, I think is the word it uses in the book, whimsical. So we want a little bit more whimsy. So it's just like, okay, hey, let's fly over there, let's go do this thing. Oh, let's fly over there, let's go do this thing now. So your life might be a little bit too structured right now, and you need a little bit more spontaneity and wisdom, whimsy kind of coming in, so you can just have a little bit of fun, right? So enjoy the process of not having a plan, to just be like, okay, I'm going to go for a drive today. Oh, I'm going to stop at this coffee shop now. Oh, that little shop over there looks cute. I'm going to go walk over to it. Oh, there's a little creek going through the town over there. Let me go walk over to it and play in the water for a second. Oh, let me go collect rocks, or you see some pretty flowers that you want to grab. Something like that, right? Where you just let your childlike nature kind of take over a little bit. You let that inner child come out and just let yourself enjoy things and go from thing to thing and just kind of enjoy wherever your attention takes you. So that's kind of that energy for the moth coming in here in terms of like advice, where it's like, okay, hey, be spontaneous, be a little bit more whimsical. Or if it's where it's like, okay, hey, that doesn't sound like you right now, or that's what you're doing all the time right now, go back in, ground your energy, find out where you might be getting yourself in trouble potentially and where you need to kind of rein yourself in a little bit here, so that way you don't get yourself in trouble anymore. You're not ending up in places or in situations you shouldn't be putting yourself into, sticking your nose into something that maybe it doesn't belong in. Not trying to call you out or anything, but just that's kind of the energy for the moth here, right? So for you, group number 7, for somebody who has this more as like a totem animal, it definitely leans more into that butterfly energy, that transformation energy. So you might be going through a big phase in your life right now where a lot of things are transforming. You're going through big change, right? So that going into that cocoon potentially, if it's a downtime of rest and quiet, and you're not sure if things feel stagnant, but you can't, you feel stuck, you can't quite do anything. You might be kind of in that cocoon right now where things are transforming for you. So you got to just kind of wait it out a little bit, unfortunately, but that's part of the process here, where it's like, it's for your own benefit, it's for your own good, where things are cocooned right now and keeping you safe as you go through this transformation process, to where you're going from a creature that's just crawling on leaves and branches and everything to something that can fly. And that's a huge change. For butterflies and moths, right, when they're going in that cocoon, like their whole body disintegrates and everything's rearranging into this new shape, into this completely new being, and that potential is always there. Keep that in mind. If you're kind of at the beginning of this transformation process, that change in potential is always there, but it needs that time in order to grow and develop and have that metamorphosis happen, which is our butterfly moth energy coming in here. And just being patient with ourselves, being patient with the situation that's happening, and then eventually you'll come out the other side and have a new perspective and life ahead of you, and things you can do with yourself here. So big energies in regards of metamorphosis and transformation. So it really depends for you here, group number 7, whether the moth is coming out in terms of a totem, like spirit kind of animal, or if it's just advice for you for the day or for like a week or so. So there's a kind of a big difference there for how the moth is presenting itself. So if it's a long-term energy for you, if it's a big energy that's constantly present in your life, it's going to lean more towards that metamorphosis. If it's just for like a day or two, it's going to be a little bit of that more like, hey, check on your energy. Do you need more whimsy, or do you need to ground yourself a little bit more? Okay, so group number 7, that's all I've got for you. Feel free to pick another animal in this video if you feel called to do so, or in previous videos. These are timeless readings, so you can come back to them whenever you feel like, or if you need a different energy for the day. So don't worry about sticking with this too long if that's not the case for you. Okay, it's going to be up to you and your intuition for what works for you. So that's all I got for us today, friends. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 8, the Cobra group. So Cobra energy, snake energy in general. Cobra has a little bit more refined specific energy for it in terms of snake energy, but snake energy is very similar kind of across the board, I feel. So with snake energy here, in terms of spirit advice, there is a kind of death and rebirth process potentially happening in your life right now. We see the shedding of a snake's skin, so that's kind of where that process comes in, where it's like, okay, here's a certain type of transformation energy, a whole new kind of snake emerging as it's shedding its skin. It's becoming a new version of itself, which is a very interesting process that happens with snakes. So that is something for you to look at. Where can you shed your skin here? Where is the newness coming in from your life? Maybe there's a situation that you need to shed, a situation that does not serve you anymore, that you are no longer able to grow from anymore. If you keep that skin on, that's too tight, right? You can't grow and become bigger and have your energy be bigger and learn and grow more, because you're just stuck in the same situation all the time, right? You think about like somebody who doesn't like have outside friends versus like their high school friends potentially, right? They just stay with the same friends and the same people all the time, but nobody gets outside experiences in order to bring it back in and help the group change and help yourself grow, right? All of a sudden, if you are in the small town and have all these high school friends, right, and travel to a completely brand new country, you have a huge different experience than before that forces you to grow and change and learn new things about yourself and others and the world. So that old situation, that old group of friends potentially might not fit anymore, and that's sad, and there's a grief process there. That's that death process coming in, but that's okay at the same time too, where we can move forward in a new way with new things, and new experiences come along with that, and new support, a new system as well, right? With snake energy here as well, and specifically cobra energy there, whatever situation might be happening in your life, there's a time to pause and really like focus on the situation, right? You think of the hypnotic eyes that a snake has and that like dead beam focus on its prey, but then there's a time where to specifically strike, right? A snake strikes fast and it strikes hard in order to get its prey. Not all snakes, keep that in mind. Cobra specifically in this case is a little bit more of that style, but there are the snakes that use venom potentially to subdue their prey. There's ones that use constriction to subdue their prey. There's many different ways and different types of snakes that refine the energy a little bit depending on the situation. So if you think of cobra here, right? Cobra specifically for this group, and for group number 8 here, and the energy behind it, there's that fast striking in the cobra. Some cobras are poisonous too, so that concept of working with the venom, working with something that's poisonous, poisons to our cells. So there's a transmuting process that happens with snake, because you can transmute poison and work with poisons in your life and make it something valuable to yourself. So kind of keep that in mind. There's a lot of creative energy with snake here as well. If you think of snake and like kundalini energy, potentially there's that life and rebirth process, the snake eating its own tails. So that concept of infinity and cycles and that kind of energy coming in. There's a lot of creativity here as well for snake energy. So specific advice, right? See what spirit advice, see how you can be patient and pause in a situation before you strike hard and fast at it. Jump full in, full feet, but to take that pause is super important so you can attack the situation in the proper manner with the right tools at your disposal. Keeping mind of death and rebirth again, where life is coming in, how you might need to shed your skin. And then for those who have snake as like a totem animal, spirit animal, that kind of energy here, you have a lot of creativity energy at your disposal. You are able to shed your skin very regularly and frequently and change and grow depending on your situation, so you can move through that energy in a very different manner than a lot of people. With that creative energy coming in, you have the ability to look at situations in a different way and through a very calm way, and move through a situation in a very snake-like manner, right? Snake doesn't have a lot of friction with the way their skin works on the ground, so they're able to move very, very rapidly through situations and in areas that are interesting and you might not consider finding them, right? We have sea snakes that have the water and move through the water just as fast as they do on land. So lots of different kind of various energies. Snake's mythology is very different across different cultures, so a lot of that comes into play here with this totem, with this spirit animal, and the energy and advice it provides. So keep all that in mind. Do a little bit more research, I'd say, on this one, depending on which snake you're kind of getting drawn to, what snake is showing up in your life, if it's not cobra specifically, okay? But friends, that's all I have for us today. Feel free to pick another animal in this video or in the previous videos. These are timeless readings that you can always come back to or jump to a new one depending on what you need at any given time for advice. So feel free to do that if you feel called to do so. Use your intuition. But I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye. Hello, group number 9, the shark group. Okay, shark energy. So this actually wasn't an animal that was in my bigger animal speak book, which was interesting. So we're pulling a little bit more off of intuition and a little bit more outside research for this, in addition to the animal spirit book. But with shark energy here, there is, in terms of just like spirit advice, kind of which is happening on like a more daily level, there is something lurking around here that you maybe haven't caught wind of or haven't been paying attention to at this point. And with the inherent fear that we have with sharks, you might be feeling that a little bit potentially, as there's this whatever thing is moving around. You have something kind of looming over your head potentially that's lurking in the water here that we need to actually be aware of. It's when we're aware of sharks and can pay attention to them and work with them that that energy will dissipate and that they aren't as scary, right? Sharks don't inherently try and hunt humans. They are trying to find food sources, obviously, but they know humans are a detriment to their survival in a lot of ways. So they're just more curious than anything and trying to figure out if a human's in the water, right? What is this thing? They do that by biting, unfortunately, a lot of the time, but is what it is in this case. So for the daily energy, or just like if this is an energy you're coming into for just advice for like the week or the month or day or something like that, it's not a spirit totem animal for you potentially, then it's like, okay, let's pay attention. What are you feeling fearful of? What do you need to pay attention to that you haven't been? Maybe we need to do a little bit, expand our picture a little bit, expand our view, and kind of see what's lurking under that ocean right now, because you might have some sharks swimming around you that are can potentially harm you if we're not careful. Okay, so keep that in mind in this regard. Sharks, once we dissipate that fear around them, can be very gentle creatures. And it depends on the shark a lot of the time too. There's lots of different kinds of sharks. There's a lot of ancient knowledge and wisdom that does come with the shark energy as well. Moving into a shark is more of like a spirit totem, spirit animal, that kind of energy. Somebody who has a shark as their animal. That energy, there's a lot of ancient wisdom here. Sharks have not changed a lot in terms of evolution. They've been around long time. We find many ancient fossils of sharks, and the biology hasn't really changed a lot, honestly. So these are animals that have been around when the dinosaurs were around, before trees were here, like lots of other pieces of land. The sharks have always been around and in the ocean. With that ocean energy, though, we also get those deep emotions. We get that feeling of emotions from the ocean because of the water energy coming in here with shark. So being submerged in our emotions and all the depths and levels that comes with, right? We have the shallows, we have the full depths of the bottoms of those caverns, and in the trenches, all those pieces, different layers of water that the shark can have access to. So keep that in mind for here as well. There is a constant movement and a constant energy, so you need to keep that aware as the person who maybe has a shark as an animal that you're attached to, that you have an energy that keeps moving forward constantly. Sharks can't stop swimming, right? Because in order to breathe, they need to keep swimming constantly and all the time. So the energy you have is moving consistently versus powerful, or it's just you're setting your mind to something. It's a consistent energy and consistent moving forward in that. And you have a sharp sense of smell here too, right? The sharks are amazing hunters. That's why they haven't changed evolutionary for so long, because what they do works for them. So there is a sharp sense of smell here in terms of like hunting. So you have the ability to figure out things and go after what you want with consistent energy. And that's something to keep in mind and keep moving forward with, right? But that fear does come back in with this animal too, and making sure that you are, how do I want to phrase this? We don't want to get too far in the depths, right? We with that shark energy lurking around here, we want to make sure that we know what's going on with ourselves, we know what's going on with our emotions and our energy, and to not get caught up in others as well, right? If there's a bunch of sharks around, they can go into a frenzy if there's like that scent of blood in the water. So you have to be careful to not lose focus, not get lost in the energy of others here as well, okay? So for just day-to-day energy, just a quick, like the spirit advice here and stuff, making sure you're paying attention to what's going on around you, not to get caught up in fear. Figure out what that boogeyman is, figure out what that fear is, so that way it's unmasked, it is brought into the light, so we don't have it lurking in the depths anymore, so we're not scared of it. And for fuller energy, if it's energy for like a year or longer, making sure we're putting in consistent energy and we're moving forward at a steady pace, so that way we don't drown. And that we go after what we want, okay? So that is our energy for the shark today. This might just be the energy for a day, month, year. I don't know. It's going to be up to you and your intuition and what feels right for you. But feel free to pick another animal in this video or in the previous videos, because this is a timeless reading that you can come back to again and again. Pick a different animal if you're feeling called to do so, okay? So that is all I have for us today, friends. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 10, the fire ant group. So fire ant, it's an interesting energy here because there is specific energy that is the ant's totem, ant spirit animal, and then there is the fire ant more specifically in this case. So with ant energy, As a general advice, spirit advice, or even as a totem, there's a lot of discipline here, or you might need discipline in your life. You think of ants and that worker mentality that comes in with ants, each individual ant doing its part and helping build the colony and helping feed the young, all those pieces coming in. So there's a dutiful kind of hard work coming in that may be needed by you. Or just like you are a hardworking person, so that's is kind of that totem energy where it's like, okay, you're constantly working very hard, you're doing it in a very kind of more strict like manner. You might be working as part of like a large company, as part of like a small one piece of like a larger company, potentially something like that going on. If that's not the case though, then it's just like talking about, hey, putting in that hard work, putting in that diligent effort, putting in that time, and maybe working with a group of people that might be beneficial for you in your work-life environment or in your environment as a whole, being one of a whole or a bigger community. So finding something that you can do with lots of different people, maybe dancing is a good one. I've been out to different places and working to like have a dance scene. So there's lots of people around me and everybody working in the same capacity, right? Or enjoying in the same capacity for dancing. However, with fire ant more specifically here, there is heat here. It is a fire card. We have the triangle on the top right here, and it is part of the fire signs in this deck specifically. So there is some aggression here a little bit. If you think about a fire ant, right, and the heat of their bite. I remember one time when I was coming back from hiking and it was in a desert environment. I think I was in Utah or something like Moab or something like that. And I was getting back in my vehicle and I felt like this heat and I realized like I was shaking out my leg and realized I got bit by a fire ant, and it was like that lasted a really long time. So where there's heat and where there's discomfort, there is room and an opportunity for growth as well. It is showing us where there is discontent in our life, where there's something that is irritating us, where there's something that is not quite going right, and we need to put in maybe that diligent hard work in order for it to pan out right. We need to lay all those pieces down, our foundation properly in order to build something, which is that ant energy as a whole. But with fire ant, kind of refining the energy here, it's like because there's something that is uncomfortable, there's something that is like adding that little bit of heat, that little bit of anger almost there, right? If we look at this card specifically, we have that pop of color in the middle and the heat expanding out of it. So if you think about fire ants too, and that colony or any ants actually just being disturbed, right? And the rapid rushing out of the anthill and like moving out very, very fast, right? You think of that energy, and that's like kind of frantic energy for how that easily can kind of turn about. So what I'm feeling with ant here specifically, it's not, for those who might have ant as a totem, I wouldn't say fire ant is maybe a specific totem for somebody, or one that appears very frequently. There might be a little bit more research for you if you're feeling called to do so in that regard. But ant as a whole, right, the totem, the archetypical energy of the ant, that's that dutiful hard work, that working in a community, working together towards a common goal, common interest. So that is for somebody who might have ant as more of a long-term totem animal, that's kind of that energy we're focusing on here. With fire ants, more in the short term though, where's our discomfort at? Where can we put in that work? Where are we showing upset on? Where has this colony been disturbed, right? Where has maybe your community and your family, this bigger piece that you're a part of, what's been disturbed here, when we need to kind of look at that and get those pieces back in order for ourselves in order to move forward in a positive way, right? Anytime that heat's being presented or that kind of fire, it allows for change as well. We get a great opportunity for change if amidst the destruction, amidst the more negative kind of discomfort aspects coming in. So lean into the discomfort sometimes. It might be beneficial in order for you to figure out, hey, where there's pain, where there's hurt, where there's heat, there's an opportunity to heal and grow and rebalance at the end, okay? So with fire ant specifically, just focus in and see where you need to move forward, where you need to kind of help heal yourself a little bit and put in some self-care, okay? So that might just be the energy for the day, maybe month, year, who knows, and it's going to depend on if it's just fire ant specifically or ant as a whole. But feel free to pick another animal in this video or in previous videos. These are timeless readings, so you can come back to them again and again and choose a different animal if you feel called to do so. It's up to you and your intuition, but that's all I have for us today, friends, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, group number 11, the Lion group. Okay, Lion energy coming in as a fire energy for this group specifically, and with this card we got that little triangle on the top right here representing the fire element. So with Lion, in terms of spirit advice, there's definitely being present, right? We think of Lion, we think of Leo energy. So showing up and being present in the situation you're around, you're here for. Being okay being at the center of attention, being okay being in the spotlight, whether it's going to be for some type of creative endeavor, in a leadership role / career thing, stepping into that power, right? Leo definitely has a lot of power behind it, as does the Lion. The Lion has a ton of power. It's the second largest cat. And the way Lion works and the symbology behind Lion, there's a regalness, right? We have the king of animals in this case, and a lot of passion and fire again, and just presence showing up with the Lion here. So if you are feeling a little bit more subdued or a little bit more fearful and stuff, putting in some Lion energy will help a lot in this case, and showing up for yourself, showing up for others. So that's kind of a big deal here. Also with Lion, it's going to depend, the energy can be a little bit more refined depending on if there's more masculine or feminine energy. The way Lion society is kind of structured, right? The male lions are more like the protectors and that show of strength and power. The female lions are the caretakers, but also the hunters. So providing the food, providing the meals for the kill and everything. They're the main ones who provide for the tribe in this case. And then the male lions are the ones doing the protecting. So that more like masculine role of the provider and the protector are divided between the two. So that's kind of interesting to note, right? Where it's like, okay, that the lioness is going to be the one doing a lot more of the work up front. So if you are not quite feeling that way, if you have more of the masculine energy, you might need to be putting in a little bit more work depending on it. The male lion can be a little bit more on the lazy side depending on how it's being perceived. So you might need to put up a little bit more work and a little bit more energy in order to provide for yourself and for others, and to take care of your family, take care of your society, your tribe, right? Lions live in a pride, so there's a lot of lions all working together in tandem together to provide, all the female lions hunting together, right? And depending on how the male lions are structured in the family unit and everything, protecting the tribe. So interesting energy there. In terms of like a spirit animal or a larger context for like a totem animal, Lion is somebody who is very present, puts out a lot of energy, has a lot of kind of that like more royal a little bit. There is being seen, right? And knowing that you're being seen and having the power behind it and the ability to step into leadership, being a leader, being one to guide others, because you are kind of that forefront, that face. So being like the face of a company, potentially something along those lines, and really leaning into that role and really leaning into the power that's behind it and knowing the power that is there. Think about lions and how they hunt, right? They actually are very stealthy creatures. At the same time, they are very precise with how they hunt and making sure they're not expending a lot of energy. So they're more of a stealth hunter in order to make sure that their energy is being conserved, especially when you're in an environment like the savannah, where there is not as easily accessible food options all the time. So really making sure in the power dynamics that we have, potentially the power dynamics and the power that we are wielding here, that we are being precise with it, that we are using it in the proper way with the proper amount of force, the proper time. So that is very important energy to have, and that's just good general advice too, right? Where it's like somebody who has a lot of power around them, somebody like a CEO, right? That they're not wielding their power in a way that's going to be detrimental to others and those that are under their care, because lions do have lots under their care. They're taking care of a whole pride. They're taking care, making sure everybody's protected, making sure they're provided for, whether or not it's masculine or feminine energy. So you're doing it in terms of a family unit, in terms of a community, and we want to make sure that the power we are wielding does take care of the whole versus just ourselves. We don't want to fall into selfish energy, which is that Leo pride, but pride is in like I'm too prideful energy coming in here. So that's kind of that more negative aspect. So we need to keep making sure that we're balanced in all these ways. We're wielding power in a healthy way today, or with this energy, if it's just kind of general advice, we're wielding power in a healthy way. We're using that power to help take care of others, and in terms of taking care of our society and our community, that also takes care of ourselves. Okay, so interesting energy of the line, a lot of fire, a lot of passion here, but this just might be the energy for the day, maybe a week, month, could be for years or longer. It might be that actual animal for your spirit, your totem animal potentially. That's up to you and your intuition and what makes sense for you. But feel free to come back to this video again, choose a different animal, use your instincts and your intuition on that. There's also previous videos that you can go into if you just need different advice. So whatever you feel called to do so. But that is all I have for us today, friends, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Hello, group number 12, my final group, the deer group. Deer energy here. It's funny that I'm doing this on a different day than the last groups, but it's a very gentle energy. It pulls in for in terms of just like spirit advice for like a day or in like a specific term of time, to just like a lot of self-care, a lot of gentleness, being gentle with yourself, having a lot of grace with yourself, and to treat yourself kindly. With deer here, if you think about that deer, it's a very gentle energy as a whole, and they are a heavy prey species, like a prey species that's used all around the globe. You kind of find deer in almost any environment in any place around the world. So their presence is very well known, and it's that energy that can be gently startled. It's a very subtle energy. So a lot of gentleness here, and being gentle with yourself, being gentle with others, so that way you can give the amount of care needed in order to help protect this kind of energy, right? We don't want to scare off a deer energy in this case. So if you think about like the fawns and like the baby deer when they're born and everything, sorry, excuse me, the amount of care and gentleness that even goes into that, right? There might be some childlike energy around you, whether it's actual children, your own children, other children, perhaps you work in like a school or something like that. The energy coming in is the care and treatment of those children in a very gentle way to help prepare them, help take care of them, prepare them for the world, right? So there's a level of protectiveness there, but also it kind of reminds me of like gentle parenting and teaching a child, or teaching that energy how to function in the world, how to take care of itself, how to move through the world in a way that's going to make it safe and secure, but also giving it support and love at the same time. A lot of love in this card too. So for those who have deer energy as more like a totem animal, spirit animal, that kind of energy, or that deer like energy coming in for archetypical energy, you are just a very gentle person as a whole. That might be energy you're imparting on others that's very much needed, or it's the energy you need to turn inward on yourself right now. Lots of gentle care and love and tenderness kind of coming in. Lots of gentle love, which is a really pleasant and wonderful energy to be around. Just make sure with that, if that is your energy and stuff, that you're taking care of yourself as well, right? It feels like an energy that can be taken advantage of if we're not careful. So we want to make sure that we are protecting ourselves, that we're being discerned, like having good discernment on things, right? The deer can be startled very easily, right? And can sense danger very, very well. So we want to make sure we're paying attention to our senses, our feelings, our intuition, that gut feeling we have if a situation's not safe for us, that we're getting ourselves out of that situation, okay? It's going to be very important in order to make sure we don't get hurt. Because the deer at the same time, with it being a prey species across the entire globe, can get easily hurt, and it's hunted, right? Not a bad thing necessarily, because it's all part of the cycle in terms of just the actual animal itself. But in terms of energy, we don't want our energy to be hunted. We don't want to be taken advantage of by energy vampires or narcissists, those kinds of things, that people that'll take advantage of our that more gentle energy you may have, group number 12, as this deer energy. So for both just daily spirit advice and those who have this as a spirit animal, just really take care of yourself. Give yourself a lot of gentle love and care. Turn that inward on yourself, because you need it just as much as how much you provide to others. So a lot of self-care here. A lot of discernment and awareness here is needed in terms of spirit advice, making sure you're safe and protecting yourself in all the situations you need, and protecting those around you and those who care about that young, in this case, those fawns, making sure that they're safe and protected as well. So it comes in with lots of gentle, caring energy here as well. What else for deer here? It's an energy that's ties very heavily into nature too, for me personally, and the connection to nature. So that might be a good place to get out and reconnect your energy with, just getting out in nature, being around trees and grass and animals, like however that can kind of work for you, just so you can kind of help get your energy in balance again, right? Deer work very well within their environment, within the ecosystem, to help take care of things, feeding on the grass and providing the movements and differences needed for the different plants and animals around them to help that space and that ecosystem as a whole. They play a very, very vital role in terms of prey and food for larger carnivore animals, but also in terms of plants and the plants they feed on, to make sure that those plants can keep growing as well. So you have a very important role. This gentle energy is very important, so keep that in mind, but make sure you're protecting yourself at the same time, okay? But for group number 12, that's all I got for you. Feel free to pick another animal in this video if you feel called to do so, or in the previous videos. We got lots of different animals to choose from, so this might just be the energy for the day, week, or month or so, or it could be longer in terms of years. That's up to you and your intuition and what makes sense for you and what you feel connected to. But that's all I have for us today, friends. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.